En los últimos días se ha criticado la postura del gobierno colombiano en cabeza de Gustavo Petro acerca del conflicto entre Guyana y Venezuela, pues el silencio cómplice que ha guardado Petro no ha pasado desapercibido, pues como se recordará, este señor siempre estuvo muy activo para arremeter contra Israel por su legítima defensa en contra del grupo terrorista Hamas. Por ahora Estados Unidos anunció esta semana ejercicios militares aéreos en Guyana e informó que en colaboración con la Fuerza de Defensa de ese país, el Comando Sur de los Estados Unidos llevará a cabo operaciones de vuelo dentro del pequeño país este mes de diciembre. El silencio del presidente colombiano incomodó al presidente de Guyana, quien dijo que su homólogo colombiano debe estar del lado correcto de la historia y exigirle a Maduro respetar la soberanía y el territorio de Guyana. Por su parte, el expresidente colombiano Iván Duque sí se pronunció en su cuenta de X en contra de Maduro y dijo que la amenaza del régimen de Venezuela, que pretende resolver una disputa territorial con Guyana de manera brutal, representa un peligro para la región. En esta entrevista, el expresidente Iván Duque le enseña a Petro cómo debe ser un verdadero presidente y no un pusilánime al servicio de la dictadura venezolana.
I do want to raise something that's not necessarily climate related, but it is very much in the news, at least in our hemisphere, the Western hemisphere. And that is what's happening with Venezuela, and specifically what's been happening the last few weeks, even the last few days, with the, what would we call it, a referendum that was held about possibility of encroaching on sovereign space in Guyana. I'm not sure how many people in this region have really focused on that, but it is something that's very newsworthy, and I'd just love to have your views on that.
It's a very important question, Conrad, because Guyana is a country that has basically a size almost similar to Ecuador, with an 800,000 people population, and it is seated in a reservoir of oil of more than 11 billion barrels of oil. And most of them are offshore, but there are also onshore assets to be identified. And they have a region that is called the Essequibo, which is the equivalent of 40% of the size of that country. And for a long time, there has been a dispute with Venezuela, but the fact is that Guyana has exercised sovereignty in the Essequibo for the last 100 years or so. And all of a sudden, a dispute that was supposed to be managed in the International Court of Justice was tried to be solved in a brutal way by Nicolas Maduro, who's the dictator that runs Venezuela, because he said, okay, let's take the Essequibo, so let's take 40% of the control of Guyana. So he called a referendum with a biased electoral system where a minority of people voted, and next day he comes and says, well, now this is the new map of Venezuela. And next day he comes and says, okay, I'm asking all the officials to start granting rights of oil exploration in the Essequibo region. And yesterday, President Ali from Guyana gave a marvelous speech telling his people, we're going to defend our sovereignty with all our energy. And why this is so worrying is because it's the same pattern that Vladimir Putin had with Ukraine. Same pattern. In this case, it's also a dictatorship trying to invade the territory of a smaller country that is a democracy. And I just don't understand why there has been such a silence from the European Union, such a silence from the UN Security Council, and maybe why there hasn't been a categorical statement from the United States government, because actually what Maduro is doing, he's violating the UN Charter. He's violating the Democratic Charter of the Americas, and I think we have to put a lot of attention, and we have to put all the pressure possible so that we don't see a bloodbath triggered by the desperate dictatorship of Nicolas Maduro.
Thank you, President, and it is truly reprehensible.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm going to let one last question.